Welcome back to Cynthia Untamed. This is your youthful and educational platform where we have conversations with and about children and young people, and we aim to inspire the current generation of leaders across the continent. If you are new on Cynthia Untamed, my name is CynthiaUNTAMED, and here we talk about all educational matters and how you can be in the current generation of leaders across the continent. So please do tell a friend to tell a friend. I happen to be a lawyer, and I'm currently in training to be an advocate of the High Court of Kenya at the Kenya School of Law. And I thought it would be nice, or it would be useful, to talk to you about the career paths you can take with your law degree. So stay tuned to the very end. The obvious career choice: you can be an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. But remember, like I mentioned in my video on how to be a lawyer in Kenya, you can only be an advocate of the High Court of Kenya if you have your 4-year LLB degree from a university in Kenya or any other university that is recognized by the Council of Legal Education outside of Kenya. Then you must proceed to the Kenya School of Law, pass your bar exam, and then be admitted as an advocate of the High Court of Kenya by the Chief Justice, and your name is entered into the roll of advocates. Only then will you be allowed to represent a client in court and draft certain documents that will require the seal of an advocate. So that is the first career option, the first obvious career choice that most of us aspire to get into. You already know very famous advocates. If you've been following the BBI proceedings, you can already name a couple of advocates that you may look up to, or you may want to follow their career paths. Being in court is not everybody's cup of tea. So the good thing with a law degree is that now you're able to diversify into many fields, and you may also transition from the courts onto the other side, or from the other side into the courts. The good thing is that there is no limit. Well, of course, as long as you have a postgraduate diploma in law from the Kenya School of Law. You can also get into the NGO world. NGO in full is non-governmental organizations. In non-governmental organizations, for example, at the UN, you'll find that there are dispute tribunals that will require your knowledge of the law to solve. You'll find in some UN agencies there are also legal departments. Not all of them have legal departments, some do. Your knowledge may also be required there. Let me give you one good example. Recently, the lady who used to be our dean when I was at the university, she's called Professor Kameri Mbote, Professor Patricia Kameri Mbote, was recently appointed as the head of the legal department at the United Nations Environmental Program. Congratulations to her. So you see, you can move from academia, being the dean of a law school, you can move into the NGO world and still continue to do the amazing work that you need to do in the environment. Well, Professor Kameri Mbote, for example, has written lots of books and lots of articles on property rights, which of course then end up touching on the environment. So of course she's suited for the job. So look up her profile, and maybe you might get an inspiration here and there, and you might see if the NGO world is for you. If you were following the interviews when people were being interviewed to replace the former Chief Justice David Maraga, who retired, you will realize that there is a question they kept asking, and that is, how will you clear the backlog of cases in the judiciary? And this is where your knowledge of the law will come in handy, in that you can opt to be an advocate or a lawyer who works in alternative dispute resolution. Alternative dispute resolution, of course, there's mediation, there's arbitration, there's conciliation, there's negotiation, all those methods. And you could actually say that I want to be in ADR. So you take up extra courses in arbitration and mediation and become certified. And that way you actually become a renowned expert in that area. Look it up if that is an area for you. And the good thing is that I was also reading that the World Bank is the one that has been supporting the pilot project of mediation at the court in Nairobi. And I was like, oh, I didn't know the World Bank was involved. So you can imagine if you're the person working at the World Bank, remember I mentioned NGO, you can be the person working at the World Bank ensuring that Kenyan courts are getting funding to ensure that mediation, arbitration, and other ADR methods are working. Or you could actually be the practitioner in alternative dispute resolution. There are lots of experts in the area. You can look up Dr. Karaoke Muigua, who taught me as well at the university, and you can also learn how you can get into ADR. He's written lots and lots of books about alternative dispute resolution. Diplomacy. I don't know whether this is true, but I heard there's lots of traveling in diplomacy. Well, the thing is that you're not traveling for holiday, so let nobody cheat you that being a diplomat means being on holiday. There's nothing like that, because diplomacy means that you're actually creating relationships between countries. You're creating a relationship between Kenya and another country. An obvious example, when Ambassador Amina Mohamed, who is the Cabinet Secretary for Sports, was vying for the World Trade Organization top position, she was admitted as an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. Why? Because her qualifications and her experience are important to her role as a diplomat at the helm of that body. And if you look at the people who were also vying for that seat, they really had very strong qualifications, especially Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, who's gone to Harvard and gone to all these big schools. She's really learned. Let me just say that she's learned. You can look up her profile. She's the current head of the World Trade Organization. And I am telling you guys, if you have a law degree and if you are an advocate, or basically if you just have a law degree, then you really have high chances of getting into the diplomacy world. But that is not to say that law is the only way to get into the diplomacy world. I know there are people who've studied political science, they've studied governance, they've studied international relations, who are still able to work in that field. The thing with law is that it will capture all these topics or all these fields into compressed systems. So you find in law, you'll study international law, you'll find that you'll study policy, you'll study politics, you'll study all these things and put them in one area. But of course, you can always choose to study one area of the law as a whole degree. So you can choose to say, no, I will not do international law alone, I will do international relations, and you're able to look at that aspect or that field in like a broader kind of point of view. Somebody was saying that lawyers are multi-skilled, multi-talented, that these people who just are able to do lots of things. I don't know how true that is, because I don't think that applies to every lawyer though. But the good thing with law is that it has transferable skills, which means that you're also able to work in areas such as media and entertainment. And media and entertainment is very wide. You could be a news anchor, you could be a journalist who reports specifically on legal affairs, you could be a journalist who talks about political issues, you could be in the entertainment space where your focus is on protecting intellectual property rights and other entertainment issues. For example, you know, in Kenya, lots and lots of artists have been complaining about not receiving their royalties. If you are a lawyer who's actually a talented musician, can you imagine blending those two, whereby you understand the artistic aspect of the media and entertainment, and you also understand the law? Then there's also another challenge. A lot of these creatives don't read contracts when they go to look for opportunities or when they're offering their services, which means that most of the time they're usually taken advantage of. So if you are a media and entertainment lawyer, then that means you're also able to establish your niche in protecting those rights. A very good example of a lawyer who's in media and entertainment law is June Gashui. June Gashui is a musician. She sings so beautifully and she also happens to be an advocate who runs her own consultancy on intellectual property, and she's actually also a radio host. And let me just mention that when I first began Cynthia Untamed in 2016, June was offering a free consultancy days for all creatives in Kenya. And guess what? I was in university, so of course I could not afford a lawyer, but I really wanted to establish a platform that had where I understood my intellectual property rights. And so I went to her and I got free legal advice from June Gashui, intellectual property consultants. So if you're also a young person who's interested in media, entertainment, intellectual property, just check out June Gashui and you'll be able to get lots of inspiration from there. Is it true that people only study law just because they're not good in maths? I don't know how true that statement is. Well, I know personally I am terrible at maths, but I know not all lawyers are terrible at math, and that means that you'll find that a lot of lawyers are actually interested in the field of accounts. And the good thing about accounting is that it's not limited to anyone. You can actually get so many schools that are offering certified courses on accounting. And if you're interested in mathematics and being an accountant, then go ahead and do it, and you'll find yourself getting lots of opportunities in the corporate world, in the tax space, because you're a good accountant. So if you're interested in that, just check out all the courses. I know there is SCCA, there is lots of courses which I cannot really name from my head, but I know there are lots of courses in the accounting fields that you can actually take up as a lawyer. You could also be an in-house counsel. Being an in-house counsel means that you are the, they usually say, who's the lawyer at your organization. So you could be the person who gives legal advice to your organization and also leads your organization in getting into legal contracts between your organization and other organizations and other entities or individuals. And that means that you don't have to go to court, but you wake up every day doing something that you love, supporting your organization to deal with their legal issues. You could be an in-house counsel in the private sector at Safaricom, for example. You could be an in-house counsel at government organizations. I saw the other day the National Youth Service. I believe it was the National Youth Service. Yeah, was advertising for a legal officer position. So that is a job that you could do. There are so many leaders across the world and in Kenya who are leaders, and because they have a law degree and they have that understanding of the law. My obvious example, who I will always mention on this channel, President Barack Obama is a graduate of Harvard Law School. He did his undergraduate at Columbia, then went on to Harvard. Michelle Obama went to Princeton, then she went to Harvard. Both of them are lawyers. In Kenya, we have leaders in positions of power who were previously lawyers. One of our vice presidents, Kijana Wamalwa, was a lawyer. We also have people sitting across different bodies across the world who are lawyers. I mentioned here that the Foreign Affairs Secretary of the United Kingdom, Dominic Raab, is also a lawyer, who he said, I am his fellow lawyer. So you can see that you can actually be at the helm of your country with a law degree. So that is one area that you could opt to pursue. But of course, remember, people do not wake up to be presidents. You cannot be president at 10. You will not be president at 19. So this takes a lot of time. So it's good for you to explore different career paths. And then probably being president will be at the helm of, at the end of your career aspirations, somewhere there. Speaking of positions of leadership, you could also get into politics. The National Assembly in Kenya has so many lawyers. We have Senator James Orengo, who is a lawyer. You see him in court a lot. And many others who happen to be advocates and continue to use their law degrees in politics. And that's because there's such a big interlinkage. Remember that for a law to be changed or for a law to pass, you must also understand the political dynamics. And for you to actually draft that law, draft that bill, ensure that it's passed, you must also understand all the other aspects. And that is why a law degree is such a good option. I see a lot of members of National Assembly getting into politics. They stay there for about 10 years and then they come back to school. I remember when I was at the University of Nairobi, we used to see former vice presidents and former speakers coming to school in the evening. You may also decide to get into consultancy. So a consultancy is basically you working for an organization or a company for a short period of time. Sometimes it's just a couple of days, 5 days, 2 days. Sometimes it's a whole year. but you also get to utilize your knowledge in the law to develop certain strategies. So for example, sometimes they will ask for a consultant in writing a policy papers on gender in the law. They could ask for a policy paper in writing about issues on female genital mutilation. You could be asked to review certain debates that are coming up, like the BBI, for example, and that enables you to keep earning, but also to continue using your knowledge of the law. I mentioned that you could be an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. That is commonly referred to as being on the bar. You could also choose to be on the bench in the judiciary as a magistrate, as a judge, as a chief justice, who knows. And that basically means that you'll be the one who will be listening to submissions in court from advocates and from witnesses, and then you come up with a decision and ensure that the rule of law is maintained, and you help us to interpret the laws and especially to interpret the constitution properly. So that will be your task. You may also decide to pursue the interest of justice as a prosecutor. So you could be the one who actually identifies the cases that need to be taken to court, and you ensure that those people who are committing crimes are actually put to jail, or they are punished, they actually face consequences. So really, there are so many things. I saw the other day that the court was actually, not the court, the director of public prosecutions, the office of the DPP was training young lawyers on how to be prosecutors. And I actually saw there's this actress called Angel Muhindi. She used to act on Mother-in-Law. I'm not so sure if she's still there. She was actually admitted as one of the prosecutors. So, you know, one day you could be on this side, you could be the one representing your client. On the other day, you could be the one who's really striving to prove people guilty. Remember, the burden of proof is always on the person who is alleging the crime. So that could be your role at some point in life. I remember when I was at the university, I did my internship at the State Law Office, the Department of Justice, and that means that you can opt to be an in-house counsel, as you can be a state counsel. Well, basically that means that you are a lawyer who represents the state. So when it comes to drafting policies, when it comes to adopting international laws into the Kenyan system, that will be your role in ensuring that Kenya has good laws, but you're specifically a counsel for the government, specifically for the government. So you never know, you might be interested in working at the office of the Attorney General, so you can also check that out. We've talked about so many career paths that you can pursue with a law degree, but what should you look at when you are making all these considerations? So stay tuned to the end. You need to consider what your interests are. Remember, there are those people who are very interested in being the ones who are leading constitutional change. So probably that might mean that you could be in politics at the National Assembly, or you could be a constitutional litigator. But you need to ask yourself, what am I really interested in? At the end of the day, what exactly is it I want to achieve? Do I want to ensure that artists in Kenya access their rights? Do I want to be one of the people who drafts the laws in Kenya? What exactly do I want? Do I find it difficult to be in court? Do I get tired? Is the NGO world for me? What exactly is my interest? So look at all those things and don't be afraid to explore. Let nobody tell you that there's only one career path when you're doing a law degree. There are very many options, as long as you stay focused and you work very hard. You also need to consider what your abilities are. Remember, even as a lawyer, your abilities are not the same. So, for example, if you decide to get into academia, probably you have good abilities in research. Trust me, when you work with people at the university, you will realize that some people just have terrible research skills. Honestly, no matter how much they're trained on how to be good researchers, they're just terrible. So you could say, oh, actually, I'm very good in research and I'd like to get into academia. And that is an area that you could explore. You might also realize that you're very patient with people, so you could decide to be a lecturer. So just look at your abilities and then pursue your career path towards that direction. What are the financial rewards you are looking to gain? So the truth is, as a lawyer or as a person who works in the bar, you will not just wake up one day and be this wealthy advocate from Nairobi or from Kisumu or wherever. it's not going to happen. So you need to ask yourself, am I patient enough to wait for a couple of years, maybe 10 or more, for me to be wealthy? Wealthy, not surviving, not having enough, wealthy. Because you're going to have to take time to get clients, for people to trust you, for you to get big deals, big contracts that give you the money and the reputation that you want. Perhaps you may tell yourself, well, the money is not really for me. I just want to have enough in life, which is okay. You could still pursue that path. So look at the financial rewards. Probably you want to work at a place that will give you enough medical coverage. Maybe you are the firstborn and you have to cater for other people in your life. So just look at all those things and then choose that direction that best works for you. You could also consider which field enables you to serve the public. So for example, if you're in the judiciary, you're serving the public directly and enabling them to access justice. If you go into private practice, well, then it means you are serving a certain group of people and not necessarily everyone, which is okay. But ask yourself whether it is the public that I want to serve. And it's okay even if you choose to get into private practice, because it will give you the financial rewards that you need. But also you can actually take up pro bono services. I know the judiciary is constantly looking for advocates who can offer pro bono services, and that could be your way of serving the public and ensuring that everyone who does not have the financial resources can still access justice because of your service. You need to consider all the trends, the future, current trends that will enable you to adapt into the legal space really, really well. The obvious one is technology. I remember when I was doing my attachment for a long time, in fact the whole time, I don't remember ever seeing any technological use in the court. Well, I think I saw maybe a few computers, maybe a microwave, but that's not really legal related. But I remember the judges and magistrates used to take notes with their hands. Imagine people are making submissions in court and the judges actually write word by word. The way you write notes in class, that's how it's done in court. And I remember also at the registry, we used to have physical files, and every day at the end of the court day, we had to arrange those files manually. Like we had to tick manually saying that file number 1 is okay, file number 2 has been brought back, file number 3, and actually manually take those files again to the courtroom the next day. And some of those files were very old, because sometimes you find like a case has been there since the 90s and it's not yet been concluded. So you find that file is old, the papers have turned yellow. But as a lawyer, as an advocate, you need to ask yourself, what are the current trends in technology that can enable my legal services to thrive? Ask yourself those questions and ensure you adapt to them so that you are not left behind. You know, now there's COVID. There was a time lawyers had to start working from home. They didn't know how to do it. Courts are now being done on Teams. So if you're a person who doesn't know how to use Teams, then really the legal profession is going to be a really hard tackle for you. So please adapt to the current trends. And lastly, look at your natural gifts. What is it that you can do easily? There's a saying that says your gifting will enable you to stand before great men. So ask yourself, with my law degree, what comes naturally to me? There are those people who are naturally bright. If they were to go into academia, they'll just read, get those PhDs straight. And then there are others who are probably better speakers. There are probably others who are better communicators in terms of creating communication strategies that impact people. So that is the likes of me. So just go where you are needed, go where you are gifted, and then go and thrive. Don't let anyone tell you, oh, this is not the path to go just because you did a law degree. Push yourself to test those waters that have never been explored or that are rarely explored, and trust me, you will thrive as a lawyer. A call to action for you. Are you a young person who's between the ages of 10 to 24 and you are in Kenya? Then the UNICEF at 75 Wisdom Project competition is for you. We want you to interview an elder in your community about their experiences as a child. And guess what? If you win, you might actually be featured by the Nation Media Group, who is one of the biggest partners of this challenge. So make sure you participate or tell any child or young person in your community to be part of this challenge. We will announce the winners on the 19th of November, and the deadline to apply is the 15th of October. I'm going to leave the link in the description bar below. If you're also a young person who's looking to explore your legal career some more, do check out this book. This one, it is called The Ideal Lawyer by Ambrose Otieno Weda, and I like it because it's very simple when it comes to breaking down the legal career. It talks about all the qualities of an ideal lawyer, and from my reading of it, it's not just an academic exam book, it's more of a guide, which I really like. I find it very practical because it actually addressed some of the issues I have been facing, like diversifying your skill set beyond the legal career, pursuing what you are naturally gifted at as a lawyer. I really like this book because I find that it resonates with me. At least the first 3 chapters have really resonated with me. So if you can just get this book. And if you can't afford it, it's still okay. This guy Ambrose Weda is an advocate of the High Court, and he actually has a YouTube channel where he talks lots of things that I personally relate to. One of them was actually how to be funny when you are giving your speech. And I thought, wow, I rarely meet lawyers who speak about such things. So do check out his YouTube channel and also get a little tips here and there. And thank you for being part of Cynthia Untamed. As always, follow me on Instagram at CynthiaOprah_Nyongesa, on Twitter at Cynthia_Oprah. Check out CynthiaUntamed.com, where I amplify the stories of young changemakers in Africa. And I will see you in the next episode.